Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today we are talking about how we're probably going to see more on The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for Nintendo Switch 2, the remake, or the rebirth, as Nintendo's been calling it. The game is getting reborn on Nintendo Switch 2. I do believe we're going to see this again fairly soon. A lot of people have been up in arms or upset or confused by the very brief teaser they gave us in the recent Nintendo Direct that aired on June 9th of 2026, so not that long ago as of this recording. And I think there's a really good chance, honestly, that not only are we going to see more updates on this game very soon, like before the summer is over soon, in my opinion, but I think this news could be coming alongside other Zelda 40th anniversary announcements, and so that's what I want to dive further into today. Now, quick disclaimer, I'm in vacation mode now, so the editing for some of the videos coming out throughout the weekend are going to be a bit simpler, but I still want to have this discussion with you because it's very interesting what's going on here. So, focusing on just Ocarina of Time, it's already clear that this is not just a simple remake. This is something very ambitious, probably, actually, I don't even want to say just probably, like, certainly, it is the most ambitious remake Nintendo has ever done. We're looking at something here that appears to be a reimagining. Like, we're seeing footage that is not one-to-one in any way. That introduction is very different. The structure of Link's room is also very different. There's a lot of different details here. And so we could be looking at something that's probably more like what Capcom has done for the Resident Evil games, or perhaps, dare I say, closer to what Square Enix has done with the Final Fantasy games. Now, I do not believe, just to be clear, that they're going to do like 2 Ocarina of Time games, splitting the child and adult portions of the game, or making it even into 3. Obviously not even that, not even 2. It's going to be just one game. I can say that with a lot of confidence, especially because we just look at the title of the game. It's just Ocarina of Time. If they were going to do something weird with it, we would see some kind of name to suggest that, I would say. But anyway, the teaser was very brief. We saw very, very little. And this is odd, because the game still has a 2026 release date. I think most likely this game is coming out in November. Now, I know some people are going to talk about, oh, well, Grand Theft Auto's coming out then. Nothing's going to come out next to Grand Theft Auto. That's not the case. There will be games coming out in November. Of course, there are many companies that are going to try and steer clear of Grand Theft Auto, but Nintendo is definitely going to have their big holiday release, as they usually do, especially if GTA is not even going to be on Switch 2 day and date. It makes sense for them to have their big holiday release, Ocarina of Time, in November, where a lot of Zelda games have come out in the past. Not all the time, but when they're coming out in the holiday season, that's usually when they release. And this really does make sense when you think about what Nintendo has announced so far. They've pretty much told us about their lineup all the way through October. So really it just leaves 2 options, November or December, but then there's also the Duskbloods. When is that coming out? It's supposed to come out 2026. I've been theorizing that that might be the December release. We shall see. Either way, though, Ocarina of Time seems very likely for November. And with that in mind, it coming out in November, us only getting a teaser now in June, it's definitely odd. I'm not sure Nintendo can wait until the September Nintendo Direct, where we usually get a big Direct, to tell us more about this game, because it is their big holiday release. Like, sure, there's probably going to be significant news on the game in that presentation, but us not even getting any proper gameplay yet, having to wait until 2 months before the game is coming out, again, it being the big holiday release, seems really unlikely to me. Now, on the other hand, I look at the Star Fox situation. They announced that in early May, it's coming out late June, super fast turnaround, announced and released in less than a 2-month window. So you might think, well, if Nintendo can do that with Star Fox, they can certainly do that with Ocarina of Time. And I'll admit that sure, they could, which, by the way, if you think about it, is only 3 months from now. But this Star Fox situation is out of the ordinary, and it is also a budget title, and it is also a one-to-one remake. This Ocarina of Time is not a one-to-one remake, as we've already seen. Now, maybe it's not as substantially different as I'm suggesting, but regardless, I think it's hard to believe that Nintendo would not give more time to market this game and show more about this leading to its release in the holidays. And so with that in mind, many seem to be in agreement that we need to get more news on this game before a September Nintendo Direct. In other words, sometime this summer. And when you think about how Nintendo has been pretty liberal with how they handle their Nintendo Directs. Like, they're willing to announce all kinds of Directs at any given point. With the Star Fox Direct, they announced it 10 minutes before it would be aired, and we just got the announcement for Splatoon Direct. There was a Tomodachi Life Direct earlier this year. I expect there will be more, and Ocarina of Time could show up in a Direct that's just kind of announced. Now, there's another consideration to be had here, though, and this is going to broaden the topic a bit here, and that's just Zelda 40th Anniversary announcements. Typically, when we get the big anniversary announcements, they happen in June. Nintendo did not acknowledge Zelda's 40th anniversary even yet. Now, some might argue, well, maybe they're just not going to acknowledge it this year, except they acknowledge the 35th, the 30th, and the 25th, all with some significant stuff going on. And what we have going on right now would lead one to believe that this should be the most significant time to celebrate Zelda's anniversary, because they just finished filming the live-action Zelda movie, and that's certainly going to start marketing this year. You do have this Ocarina of Time remake now that's going to be the big release for Switch 2 this year. And they've done other things such as that Ocarina of Time Lego set earlier in the year, and consistently they have other things going on. Like, maybe they should be announcing a Zelda concert. Maybe there should be more merchandising. What if there are other games for Zelda's anniversary that are going to be coming out? Like, what if they're going to release Twilight Princess on Switch Online, for example? That's something they could announce in potentially a Zelda Anniversary Direct, a presentation, and anniversary announcements happen in the summer. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen in June. I think it's pretty clear they're not going to be doing this in June because we have Star Fox coming out in a few weeks, they have the Splatoon Direct happening, but I'm not going to rule out us getting a Zelda Anniversary presentation in July. Something else worth noting is that August, there's no significant first-party releases coming out in August, and maybe they just want to use that as a break month, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't want to have some advertising, some marketing, some presentations going on during that time. So that can make some sense. Of course, if we get to August, then some people might start thinking, well, if we're already in August, might as well wait until September. Another element to this equation, though, is that supposedly we're also going to be getting a special Zelda 40th Anniversary Nintendo Switch 2 to come out alongside the Ocarina of Time remake. When might that be announced? I'll point out we've seen revisions for the Switch 1 announced in July, such as the Switch Lite, which came out September of that year, or the Switch OLED, which was announced in July 2021 and came out October of that year. Of course, those are revisions, not a special edition Switch. Looking at the Tears of the Kingdom OLED, that was announced in March of 2023. It came out late April, and Tears of the Kingdom came out early May. But then looking at another major holiday special edition release, the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet edition of the Switch OLED was announced in September of 2022 and came out November of 2022, a couple weeks before the release of the game. So at least based off the history of special edition announcements, not revisions, there is a little bit of a quicker turnaround there. And interestingly, we expect that there will probably be a September Nintendo Direct, and if it has a big Zelda 40th Anniversary focus, then they could announce it there or around that time, and then 2 months later, it comes out in November around the release of the game. And you know, I do think it's worth mentioning that for Mario's 40th Anniversary, they just combined it to the General Direct last year in September. And so perhaps maybe Nintendo could do that, where we do get a Zelda 40th Anniversary Direct, but it's actually just a segment in a bigger Nintendo Direct in September. Which would also be probably the right time for them to start marketing the live-action Zelda movie. We could get a trailer there for that. And they could make other quick, important Zelda announcements regarding the anniversary. But it may be the case that because they have the movie coming out next year, similar to the Mario situation, they're actually stalling here with the anniversary stuff, waiting later into the year to announce it, so a lot of this anniversary stuff and the celebrations trickle into next year, so they can have a lot of cross-promotional boosts for Zelda leading into the movie. They may be following a similar strategy to what they've done with Mario, and that could explain why the Ocarina of Time remake teaser was so short, and it could also explain why we haven't gotten any anniversary announcements yet. But I do have to say something else though. This September Nintendo Direct, I'm assuming there will be one because there usually is one, they're going to, yes, need to talk about things coming out throughout the holidays, probably outline the Dust Bloods, and Switch Sports, and the Ocarina of Time remake, but they will also have to announce the games coming out in the early months of next year as well, very similar to the September Direct we got last year. But if they're also going to have this Zelda 40th Anniversary segment where they announce all these different things and give us a trailer for the live-action Zelda movie, wouldn't that be so much Zelda that maybe they would consider not putting it all in one place. Like, I'm not saying we wouldn't get an update on the remake there, but wouldn't it make more sense to show off gameplay of the remake before they also have the trailer for the movie? It seems like a lot to do all in one place. And I guess something else to consider, with Switch Sports being Nintendo's big October release, that's a very casual focused game, not as core centric. Nintendo could be relying on the Ocarina of Time remake to really carry the core audience, so they may feel a little bit more comfortable with just having a heavy promotional focus on Ocarina of Time, not worrying about other games getting in the way, at least from their own lineup, starting in September. What's interesting is that when I started this recording with the intent to argue that we'll be getting Ocarina of Time remake news soon, and 3 months from now is not that long, but I was honestly thinking sooner, and I'm still going to say I think it can happen, because ultimately I do think that this is such a substantial release that it makes sense to have more than just a teaser. But then I also think about how we felt like we were waiting a long time to get a proper look at Tears of the Kingdom when it was getting so close to release. Tears of the Kingdom released on May 12th, and Nintendo didn't really start kicking things into high gear for the promotional campaign until we got the Mr. Aonuma gameplay demonstration on March 28th, which was kind of a pretty quick turnaround there once they kicked things into high gear. So honestly, I'm kind of divided here. I'm not exactly sure how Nintendo is going to handle things. But that teaser was just so little, we don't have any gameplay. You would think that they would want to tell us a little bit more so people have more reason to be excited about what Nintendo has to offer later this year on Switch 2. So I'm still ultimately leaning in us getting news on the Ocarina of Time remake, perhaps alongside other 40th anniversary stuff before the summer is up. Maybe it won't be like a blowout for the Ocarina of Time thing, because if they do like this whole Zelda 40th anniversary presentation, there's so many other things to discuss. They don't want to completely dominate things with the Ocarina of Time remake, but we do actually finally get a proper trailer. Maybe it's a little bit longer, maybe 2.5 minutes, that has actual gameplay. And they still don't kick things into high gear until September, where it's the main promotional focus all the way until it comes out in November. So that's what I'm thinking right now. We will get news before the summer is up, July or August in my opinion, but the big promotional run won't really begin until September. What do you all think though? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I will see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.